The purpose of this tutorial is to get you started making maps for Soldier of Fortune 2 Double Helix, which I will refer to as SoF2 from this point on. I will go through the basic method of creating a single room with a player spawn point and a few light sources. I am going to assume that you have properly installed SoF2 MP SDK. If you haven't installed it and checked that it runs, be sure to visit the gtconnect.com website for an in-depth tutorial on how to do it. In order to conserve time on this video, I must leave out some of the details using SoF2 Radiant. You should explore the program further on your own time to become more familiar with it. Now that you have everything installed and running, we can begin to create our first room for SoF2. You can see here that I have my copy of SoF2 Radiant open and I am ready to go. To start, we should begin with a selection of textures. These are the images that will be seen by the player within the game. For the sake of this tutorial, we will open the common set of textures. Go to the top of the menu bar, click on the Textures heading, and you should find a list of textures as you see here. If you do not see them, you have not properly installed SoF2 Radiant, and you need to go back through the setup tutorial again to locate your problem. Click on the common texture set and wait while they load. If you are working along with this tutorial, you may want to pause this video as it may take some time to load on some computers. Once they have loaded, we'll choose our first texture, 3 Cement. It's a simple concrete texture that will work for us here. Click on the texture so that the red outline marks your selection. Move your pointer to the gridded area and begin to draw a box by holding down the left mouse button and pulling the corner of the box out to size. I chose to start my corner at the -192, +192 grid point and created a square by stopping at the 192, -192 grid point. If you let go of the mouse button too early or do not size the box as I have, don't worry, you can make your adjustments to the selected box very simply. If you hold the left mouse button down on the outer side of the selected box, you will be able to move that side back and forth to your desired side. If you hold the left mouse button down on the outer corner of the selected box, you will be able to move that corner as needed. If you hold down the left mouse button inside of the selected box, you will be able to move that box around the grid. If you hold down the right mouse button within the grid, you will be able to move your viewable area around. The proper term for this box that we just created is Structural World Brush, or Brush for short. Now that we have the outer dimensions of our room laid out, we want to create the proper height. We can do this from the Z window on the left. Pull the bottom of the brush down to the -8 unit line, and pull the top of the brush up to the 192 unit line. This will leave enough room for our player, which is about 72 units tall in this game. Now you can hollow out the large brush into a hollow cube by clicking the hollow key at the top of the menu. This will make all of your walls the same thickness as your grid, which is 8 units. I find this to be a great wall thickness to work with. Now, one of the faults with this hollow function is that it allows the 6 sides of the cube to overlap each other. This can cause a visual problem with your level, so we want to fix this by mitering the corners. This will create the smallest number of sides seen by the player in the game, cut down on lag, and remedy the overlap error. Before we miter the wall brushes, we will adjust the ceiling texture. Deselect everything by hitting the Escape key on the keyboard. Let's start by selecting the ceiling and sizing it down to fit inside the 4 walls. The best method of selecting a single brush is from the 3D window. Selecting a brush from the grid area could cause an error in selection. Now there is no reason to let the player see the side of the ceiling should we allow the player to walk outside of the room in later tutorials. Here I will show you another example of how you can resize just one side of the brush or an entire corner with the mouse as I had described earlier. Deselect the ceiling brush with the Escape key and select the 4 walls from the 3D window. Size the bottom of the 4 walls upward so they rest on top of the floor rather than inside of it. Select a more appropriate texture for the walls. This will make our room look much nicer later when we play the game. Move over to the texture display window and select the 3 red brick texture. It will be applied to all of the selected brushes, which happen to be our 4 walls. Deselect all of the walls and reselect just one of them. We will now miter the corners of the walls. To do this, we will manipulate single edges of the brush. The shortcut for this is the E key on the keyboard. Learning your shortcuts from the help menu will greatly improve your ability and mapping speed. When you hit the E key, you will notice the brush edges will be displayed with a blue movable block. Move them as I do to create a trapezoid shape. Be sure to just grab the corners and not the center of the edges, or you will not end up with the desired effect. We will do this for each of the 4 walls, deselecting each brush as we finish, and selecting the next. The final outcome will be a nicely shaped box of a room with no overlapping brushes and an optimal set at that. Go ahead and deselect all the brushes as we are going to begin adding entities to our map. Entities differ from world brushes as they are not structural and they are interactive with the player in the game. When you right-click the mouse button on the gridded area of the map, a list of choices will come up. The most important of these is the list of available entities. If you do not have an entity list, your program is not set up correctly and you should go back and locate the problem. We are ready to add our player spawn point. From the list of entities, choose Info Player Deathmatch from the list. The entity will show up in your map and you can go ahead and adjust the properties as needed. I moved mine down to the lower right hand corner and made sure he was standing on the floor and not inside of the floor by adjusting the height position. Hit the N key on the keyboard to bring down the entity editor. The entity editor allows you to add keys and values and affect the properties of the entity. In this case, we want to simply adjust the direction the player is facing when he spawns into the game. We can do this easily by selecting the degree mark shown in the editor. I chose 135 degrees to make the player face the northwest corner. You can now close the entity editor by hitting the N key again. Let's go ahead and add some light for our player. Right-click the grid area again for the entity list and choose a light entity. Position the light near the ceiling of the room for the purpose of this tutorial, and then place it in the corner opposite the player. Our room is going to need more than one light, so let's copy the light we have by hitting the spacebar on the keyboard only once. Each press will create another copy. Move the copied light to the upper right-hand corner of the room, and copy it again with the spacebar. Move that new light to the lower left-hand corner, so we now have 3 lights. Let's go ahead and save our new room under the name Room 101. Our map won't compile correctly until you save it with a name. Next, we will turn that map into a BSP format that the game can understand. We do this by compiling the map. At the top is a menu selection titled BSP. You want to choose BSP Full Viz to compile your map, since we are ready for the final version and do not need to run any significant tests on this game. An MS-DOS window should pop up while the compile process is completed in 3 steps, thus the 3 lines in the new window. This window will close fairly quickly since our map is small, but can stay open for several hours when compiling larger maps. When the window closes, the process is complete. Before closing the program, you should check the console at the bottom of the screen for errors. This is where we want to see that everything is compiled correctly. We want to open a file explorer such as Windows Explorer and locate the new BSP that we just created. You should find it in the directory C, SoF2 MP SDK, base, maps. You want to select the room101.bsp file and copy it, and paste it to the directory C, Program Files, Soldier of Fortune 2 Double Helix, base, maps. This is where the game will look for the final level. Go ahead and close all your programs and start up a multiplayer game. When the game has loaded, hit the tilde key on the keyboard to bring down the console in the game. To run your level, type devmap space room 101 and hit the enter key. This will load the level and start the game. There you have your new game level for SoF2.